All right. This time we're tackling something that's been making waves, in pretty much every industry, but especially in media. And that is the rise of AI and all the ways it's started to impact the world of journalism.
Yeah, AI is everywhere these days, isn't it?
Mhm.
And it's definitely shaking things up in the newsroom.
For sure, for sure. And we've got a whole bunch of sources here, articles, research papers, even some anecdotes from journalists who are actually using AI in their work. So we're going to really try to unpack this from all angles. You know, How are journalists using AI as a tool? What are the ethical implications of algorithms writing news stories? And, the big question, what does all this mean for the future of journalism?
Yeah, there are some pretty big questions on the table.
To kick things off, we found some really interesting examples of how AI is already being used in journalism.
Mm.
Like, did you know The Guardian actually published an article written entirely by a robot?
Oh, wow, I hadn't heard about that one.
Yeah, it was a few years back. This AI program called GPT-3, they fed it a bunch of data and told it to write an essay about why humans shouldn't be afraid of AI. And the results were, well, kind of creepy, to be honest.
I bet. I mean, it's one thing to have AI summarizing sports scores or something, but a whole essay?
Right. It's like straight out of science fiction. And then on a completely different note, there was this case in Germany where a magazine editor got fired for publishing a fake interview with Michael Schumacher. And it turned out the interview was generated by AI.
Oof, yeah, that's not good.
There's a whole ethical mess.
Hmm.
I mean, it really highlights the potential for AI to be used for, well, less than honest purposes.
Definitely raises some red flags.
And, it's not just about making things up. There's also the issue of bias. Like, there was this incident where Microsoft's AI facial recognition software couldn't tell the difference between the members of the band Little Mix.
Really?
Yeah, it kept misidentifying them. And it kind of highlighted how these AI systems can perpetuate existing biases, especially when it comes to things like race and gender.
It's like, how can we trust these systems to be fair and accurate if they're built on biased data?
It's a huge concern. But okay, let's step back from the kind of scary stuff for a minute
Hmm.
and talk about how AI is actually helping journalists do their jobs better. Because believe it or not, there are a ton of tools out there that are already being used in newsrooms. Like
What?
you've probably heard of Otter.ai, right?
Yeah, I think so. Isn't that a transcription service?
Yeah, it's like magic. You upload an audio recording of an interview, and within minutes, it spits out a text transcript.
Wow, that would have saved me so much time back when I was a cub reporter.
Right. Think of all the hours journalists used to spend hunched over their desks, manually transcribing interviews.
Yeah, not the most exciting part of the job.
Not at all. And it's not just transcription, there's also Adobe Podcast. It uses AI to enhance audio quality, make podcasts sound more professional and easier to listen to.
I actually use that one myself.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you like it?
It's amazing. It can clean up background noise, balance audio levels, even reduce echo. It's like having a sound engineer in your pocket.
So it seems like AI is taking over all the tedious tasks, leaving journalists free to focus on the more creative and interesting aspects of the job.
That's the idea, yeah. I mean, these tools are really about augmenting human capabilities, not replacing them.
Right, giving journalists superpowers.
Exactly. More time for digging into stories, connecting with sources, the stuff that makes journalism so important.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
Not at all. There's a lot of potential here.
But okay, things get a little trickier when we start talking about AI actually generating news content. We're not just talking about assisting journalists anymore. We're talking about algorithms writing the news. And that's where things start to get a little, well, controversial.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms.
I mean, there are already outlets like the Daily Mirror and Daily Express in the UK that are using AI to write certain types of news stories. Things like stock market reports, sports recaps, basically anything that's data heavy or follows a pretty predictable format.
Makes sense, I guess. Those kinds of stories don't really require a lot of, human intuition or creativity.
Exactly. And the argument is that by automating these tasks, you free up human journalists to focus on more in-depth reporting, investigations, analysis, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I can see the logic there.
But of course, there are concerns. Like,
Yeah.
what about accuracy? Can we really trust algorithms to get the facts right, especially when it comes to more complex or nuanced stories?
And what about bias? We've already talked about how AI systems can reflect the biases of their creators. So how do we ensure that AI-generated news is fair and impartial?
Those are big questions.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole issue of fake news. I mean, AI can be used to create incredibly realistic looking but completely fabricated content.
Yeah.
And that could have some pretty serious consequences, especially in today's hyper-partisan media landscape.
Yeah, it's the slippery slope.
And it's not just a hypothetical problem. There have already been cases where AI-generated content has, well, let's just say, gone wrong. Like CNET, the tech website, they got into some hot water for publishing a bunch of AI-written financial articles that turned out to be riddled with errors.
Yikes.
Yeah, even basic math mistakes. It just shows that AI is not a magic bullet. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
It all comes down to, human responsibility.
Absolutely. So yeah, it seems like we're at this kind of crossroads. AI has the potential to revolutionize the way news is produced and consumed, but it also comes with a whole host of ethical challenges and potential pitfalls.
It's a double-edged sword for sure.
And that leads us to one of the biggest questions we're grappling with. How do we ensure that AI is used ethically and responsibly in the field of journalism?
Yeah, how do we balance innovation with, the need to protect the integrity of the news?
And how do we prevent AI from being used to spread misinformation or manipulate public opinion?
These are questions that we're all going to have to wrestle with as AI becomes more and more integrated into our lives.
So yeah, a lot to unpack here, but before we go any further, I think it's time to address the elephant in the room.
Oh, you mean the whole robots taking over the world thing?
Exactly. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people are worried that AI is going to eventually replace human journalists altogether.
Yeah, it's a valid concern.
I mean, AI can work 24/7, it doesn't need sleep, it doesn't ask for a raise, and it can process information at lightning speed.
Sounds like the perfect employee, right?
Except for the whole lack of empathy and critical thinking thing.
Right, that's the key difference. As much as AI has advanced, it still can't replicate the human ability to connect with sources on an emotional level, to ask the tough questions, to really dig deep and understand the nuances of a story.
So you're saying there's still hope for us humans?
Oh, absolutely. I actually think the future of journalism lies in collaboration, not competition. AI can be an incredibly powerful tool for human journalists, helping them to be more efficient, more accurate, and even more creative in their storytelling.
So it's not about AI versus human journalists, it's about AI and human journalists working together.
Exactly. It's about finding ways to leverage the strengths of both to create a more informed and engaged public.
Okay, that's a much more optimistic outlook than the robot apocalypse some people are predicting.
Well, let's not go there.
But it also means that journalists need to adapt, they need to become fluent in the language of AI, and they need to learn how to use these tools ethically and responsibly.
Absolutely. It's a whole new skill set for journalists.
They need to be data savvy, AI literate, and they need to be able to think critically about the information they're gathering and the stories they're telling.
A whole new world of journalism, that's for sure.
So yeah, a lot to think about. We've explored how AI is being used as a tool by journalists. We've looked at the potential and pitfalls of AI-generated content. And we've even touched on the ethical dilemmas this technology raises.
And we've just scratched the surface.
That's right. There's so much more to explore.
We haven't even touched on how this is all impacting newsrooms, the way journalists work, the kinds of jobs that are available.
And what about the business side of things? How is
yeah.
AI changing the way news is funded and distributed?
And what about the impact on us, the audience? How is AI shaping the way we consume news and the kinds of stories we see?
But now I think it's time to get a little more specific, like how is this AI revolution actually playing out in different areas of the news?
Yeah, because it's one thing to talk about AI and journalism in general, but it's another to see how it's actually being used in the real world.
Yeah.
Shaping the news we read and watch every day.
Exactly. So let's start with maybe the most high stakes area of all, politics.
Yeah, AI and politics. That's a whole other level of complexity.
Because it's not just about reporting the news anymore. It's
Right.
about influencing elections, shaping public opinion, even potentially manipulating voters.
You're right, and AI is already being used for all of those things. We're talking about algorithms that can analyze voter data, predict election outcomes, and even craft targeted political messages.
It's like having a political strategist on steroids.
Yeah, but with a whole lot of ethical baggage.
Because the potential for manipulation is huge.
Huge.
But I guess it's not all bad news. I mean, AI can also be used to promote transparency and accountability in politics, right?
Yeah, that's the hope, at least. There are folks working on AI-powered fact-checking tools. They can analyze political speeches and statements in real time, flagging any inconsistencies or outright falsehoods.
That's cool.
And there are also initiatives using AI to track campaign finance, making it harder for shady backroom deals to go unnoticed.
So it's like a constant tug of war
Exactly.
between those who are using AI to manipulate the political system and those who are using it to try to clean it up.
It's a battle for the soul of democracy, in a way,
And AI is right in the middle of it.
right in the thick of it.
Okay, well, let's move from the world of politics to something a little closer to home. Literally, our wallets. Financial news.
Ah, yes, the world of stocks and bonds and all that fun stuff.
I'll be honest, I usually just skim those market reports hoping my retirement savings aren't tanking.
Well, get ready for AI to make those dry financial reports a little more digestible. We're already seeing algorithms that can analyze market trends, break down complex financial concepts, and even personalize investment advice.
It's like having a personal financial advisor.
Right, but without the hefty fees.
Okay, that sounds pretty good actually. But doesn't that raise concerns about, robot financial advice leading us all into another recession? Who's ultimately responsible when an algorithm tells you to invest in something that goes belly up?
That's the key question. And it gets to the heart of the need for regulation and oversight in this space. We need clear guidelines for how AI is used in financial reporting, especially when it comes to providing investment advice. Because as much as we might like the idea of robots managing our money, someone needs to be held accountable when things go wrong.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's shift gears one more time to something a little more lighthearted. Sports.
Ah, yes, the world of games and competition and diehard fans.
Who doesn't love a good game, especially when your team is winning?
Even in the world of sports, AI is changing the game. Literally. We're
Yeah.
talking about algorithms that can analyze player performance, predict game outcomes, and even generate play-by-play commentary.
Wait, you're telling me I might be watching a football game narrated by a robot soon. I don't know how to feel about that.
Well, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but AI is already being used to enhance sports coverage in some pretty cool ways. Think about AI-powered highlight reels, detailed analysis of player movements, and even personalized sports news feeds that cater to your specific team loyalties.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal, but I can't shake this feeling that we're heading towards a future where everything is personalized, curated, and delivered by algorithms. And not just in sports or finance, but in every aspect of our lives.
And that raises some profound questions about choice, autonomy, and even serendipity. What happens when we only see the news that an algorithm thinks we want to see? Are we becoming trapped in these information echo chambers where our own biases are constantly reinforced?
It's almost like we're trading convenience for critical thinking.
That's the danger, isn't it? We become so reliant on algorithms to filter and curate information for us that we lose the ability to discern for ourselves what's credible, what's relevant, and what's actually worth our attention.
So what's the solution? It feels like we're caught between this incredible potential for AI to make news more accessible and engaging, and this very real fear of becoming slaves to the algorithm.
The first step is recognizing that it's not an either situation. It's not about AI versus human journalists. It's about finding ways for them to work together to leverage the strengths of both.
But how do we do that in a way that's ethical, responsible, and ultimately serves the public good?
It starts with education. Journalists need to be trained in how to use AI effectively and ethically. News organizations need to develop clear guidelines for how AI is used, and invest in systems for oversight and accountability.
And let's be honest, we as readers need to step up our game too. We can't just passively consume whatever pops up in our news feeds.
You're absolutely right. We need to become more discerning consumers of news. That means questioning sources, considering different perspectives, and being wary of anything that seems too good to be true. We need to take responsibility for our own information diets and not just blindly trust what we see online.
But that's easier said than done. Who has time to
Yeah.
fact check every headline or cross reference every
So
source?
that's where media literacy comes in. We
Mhm.
need to educate ourselves and our communities about how to identify credible sources, how to spot misinformation, and how to think critically about the information we consume.
So it's like we all need to become amateur detectives,
Mhm.
trained to sniff out those subtle clues of deception.
Exactly. And that's not a bad thing, because at the end of the day, the best defense against misinformation is an informed and engaged public, a public that's skeptical of easy answers, demands evidence, and is willing to challenge their own assumptions. And the choices we make today will determine the kind of news we'll have tomorrow.
That's it for our deep dive into AI and journalism. It's been, a fascinating and at times a little bit unsettling journey, but ultimately I think it's a conversation we all need to be having.
I agree.
So thank you for joining us.
And keep those algorithms in check.
And those critical thinking skills sharp.
See you next time.